Good morning and welcome to La Palma, the beautiful sunny island in the middle of November. Fabulous roads and mountains, switchbacks, hairpins, twisties to die for. So, not particularly this stretch. I mean, by the standards of the island, this is not twisty, but we will see some later on.
And has very diverse landscapes across the island. Down in the south, it's got some very volcanic, arid, desert-like areas. In the east, it's got almost jungle with waterfalls and lush forests. And on the west, across the other side of the volcano, it's got pine forests, very mountain, really traditional mountain type terrain, and quite dry. It's a small island, only about 30 miles or 45 kilometres north to south and about 20 miles or 30 kilometres east to west, but rises to about 2,500 metres or 8,000 feet at the volcano. So much of the island is spent on twisty climbing or descending roads across the edge of the hills, often with tight corners and sheer drops. But overall the road surfaces are excellent throughout the island.
This is the thing about this island. I know I keep saying it, but the twisties just go on and on and on. And all the properties here are kept so well. It's just travelling along through the villages is pretty. And here's another small village. They like to use bright colours to paint. And it's just flowers. Everywhere is well kept, clean. You know, it's quite beautiful. And this is, you know, everywhere I've been, this is what I found. These places are kept this way. Nothing shoddy or, you know, nowhere looks poor. Now, maybe there is somewhere on the island, but yeah, generally it looks a very prosperous island. And I believe, from what I've heard, yeah, the economy is mainly agriculture and tourism. But I'm still a little surprised with that because I don't see huge swathes of agriculture because a lot of the land is not suitable. And I don't see huge numbers of tourists. Yeah, it's certainly not crowded. I mean, you want to come here and not be overwhelmed by tourists. Outside of the major hotels, there seems to be very few people in general and hardly any tourists. So the ratio of tourist to island space is very, very good. This is along the seafront in Santa Cruz. It's a little bit cloudy on this side of the island today, and you can feel this more humid because of that. Nice little cafes, nice promenade to walk along. I'm going to turn down here just to see what's down here. Okay, some of the traditional cobble streets. Again, I'm sure the camera doesn't do anything to show steepness, but for a city street, it's pretty steep. Sorry, sat nav talking at the same time. Again, the place is very quiet, both in relation to traffic and to people. For a capital city, even of an island, it's not crowded. Oh yes, I can see up ahead in the hills the cloud is down on them. This could be one of those days when this side of the island is in cloud. It'll be interesting to see what the west side is like when we get there. It seems to be public underground car parking around town, as well as ample street parking, and as we saw earlier, dedicated motorbike bays as well. Right, I think into the tunnel. It's a very short one. And out the other side we need to be taking a left fairly shortly. Oh, first graffiti I've seen. I like that view up that little valley up to the clouds and the hills. Speed limits are generally fairly low around the island compared to other places. But initially I didn't see any enforcement. I believe there are some speed cameras on the island, but a very small number. But certainly I've seen the police out checking in the Santa Cruz area. So I would say don't go abusing the speed limit. There could be consequences. Well, I think you could define us now as being out of the city in just a few minutes. And this would be a great place. It's only a couple of minutes from the centre of the city, and yet it feels so quiet and peaceful at the same time. It's quite pretty on the hilltops as we come close to the cloud base. So I'm not sure how long before I start rising again, but we seem to have leveled out for the moment. As we climb, I can see that the cloud is quite thin in places, in a lot of places, and I think it is slowly burning off as well. So by the time we reach the base of it, it may be very little of it left. It seems to be burning off fairly quickly. In some ways it's much easier getting around the island by motorbike than by car, because okay, on this road, but on the narrower roads with a car, you're every corner you're trying to leave space for a bus or a truck coming the other way or be able to stop. There's such a contrast in vegetation between the two sides of the island. Here on the east side, it is so rich, such a diversity of plants, growth is so thick that it's almost tropical forest when you look into it. But on the west side, it's drier and it's nearly all pine, and pine well spaced out, probably to allow for the amount of water that's available for it. As I climb, you can feel the temperature dropping. Again, not uncomfortable in a mesh jacket, but you can definitely feel it's now a refreshing breeze through the jacket. Gone is the warmth and the humidity down in Santa Cruz. And you can see the vegetation change as well. We're gone from the very lush, very thick forests on the on the east side, to this much more open pine that is common throughout the west side. I think it's probably just a difference in the amount of rainfall, but again, comments welcome for those who know better. Just trying to stay on the actual tarmac, not on the pine needles. A hiking area that goes through the volcanoes, I suspect. Here it's all the fine, the ground surface where you can see it under the pine needles looks to be just a really fine black volcanic sand. For so much up on the mountain where I wasn't expecting anything, It is very, very good road, and nice retaining walls, well marked. You can see sometimes where the black sand or invades onto the tarmac. I think you'd want to be very careful of that, particularly running at night when it might not be as easy to see it. It just goes up and up and up. And the views are just opening up. I hope I get a spot to stop up here and take some photographs, because the views are really opening up to my right. But I'm not getting much of a chance to stop and look at the moment. Yeah, here's the stopping area.
This is where the volcano erupted in late 2021, between roughly September and December. And you can still see how recent it looks, and the smoke still rising from the volcano itself. You're not allowed near it at the moment. The lava ran from here down to the coast you see in the background. And it is a reminder of how volatile these islands can be. This is the real fine sand, volcanic gravel that is everywhere up here.
We were quite close to the eruption point a few years ago, but the forest seems to have survived well on this side. The lava ran down the other side. But it is cool in the forest. I have no idea. This has got to stop climbing at some point. But so far it seems to just go on and on. Here we go. No, I thought I saw the car park. It might be the highest spot, but it looks like it's just a lovely spot to come walking in the woods. I just stopped and spoke to a local, I know I would describe them as park rangers, might not be the correct word, but that's what they kind of function. And he was saying that he is from La Palma, and that he finds it beautiful, very like Tenerife, but far less people, not as crowded. And I would agree with him, because the island just seems to have a lovely amount of people without being crowded.
At the southern end of the island, you have very barren desert-like areas from earlier volcanic eruptions. I would say this is very reminiscent of Lanzarote as an island, if you visited there. It's still nice riding and leads down to a lighthouse and some black sand beaches right down on the southern tip of the island. There are still some pretty old little villages, probably the original fishing villages, built into the rocks around some of the small sandy beaches. This is down by the lighthouse. For such a small island, I love the contrast in terrain. Within half an hour's riding, you can be in a completely different kind of terrain.
This forest here is beautiful, and it's cool. Oh, a little lizard, I doubt was seen on the camera. Which way do we go? I'm guessing this way. This is a fabulous recreational facility for tourists and for the locals. The footpaths are well marked, they're well surfaced. And there's a village just below, so it's not very far away at all for people to go.
The views down from the top of the island, well above the cloud base. It was quite beautiful in the evening. And up here you've got a very arid, typical of higher mountain terrain. We're probably close to 8,000 feet. And the road surfaces are not quite as good as elsewhere on the island, but still very good. But it's that typical high mountain terrain.